Right everyone, you might remember in the last video we picked up this Freelander from my mate Mark, who does sort of scrap pickup. He normally breaks cars, but when he's places he gets offered all kinds of different motors, and the customer mentioned they wanted to get rid of this 2 litre TD4 HSE Freelander on a 2004 with, I think it was 120 odd thousand miles. We got it dropped off pretty much sight unseen. Last video we had a quick spin around the car park to see if it was going to go into gear or not, because this is actually an auto, and autos are super popular at the moment. And I did say that we were going to take it for a longer run, so that's what we're going to do now. I didn't mention in the last video how much I paid for the car. I paid £700 for this. Now retail wise I think it sits somewhere between 2.5 and 3 with an auto gearbox on it, looking online. Now I have got someone potentially wants to buy it, but they said can I get MOT it for them, and I'll pay whatever the MOT costs. It's another trader who's then looking to just move it on retail himself. I'd offered it to him, just adding a couple of £100 on top just to cover costs and get myself a drink out of it. But obviously if we're going to go and get an MOT and he pulls out, then I'll be looking at retailing it anyway. I think either way it's only worth money with an MOT on it, so if he does pull out I don't think I'd have found other people that wanted to buy it with just a month's MOT left on it. Now we know that it's got good tyres all round, and we know that the bodywork's in good condition, but like I say, we haven't taken it very far drive wise, so let's hop in it and take it for a spin. Right, first test is a proper cold start. I don't think we've done one yet. When we tried it last video it had been moved off the trailer already, so well, that's alright. Settled down to a nice idle pretty quickly. Only got a little bit of fuel in it, we'll have to get some fuel. The main thing is, I think we only got into second or third with the auto box yesterday. So the question is, how will it do on a bit more of a stretch? Let's find out. Excuse volume levels or picture qualities, I'm having to use my phone because my GoPro's died. Got another one on the way. Let's get the lights on. Right, there's second. There's third. Don't know how many gears it's got. Fourth. Changing nicely. It's a smooth change. Brakes good, no squealing, no pulling left or right. Hedge cutting season. You get flicked with all your branches. Yeah, gearbox, I was told the gearbox changed smoothly. Tracking looks to be out, I think. Get straight here. Yeah, tracking's a fair bit out, that needs sorting out. Rides nicely. A little bit of creaking from the interior, but the suspension itself feels good. We'll take it, we've got enough fuel to go one direction, then we'll take it back into town and get some diesel in it. Right, off we go. A bit more of an acceleration. I think I might be able to just about hear a little bit of pressure loss, maybe an old pipe or something from the old turbo. I might be being overly picky on that. Oh no, hold on, we've got an engine management light on the dash. So I was probably right. Oh dear, engine management light. Let's just see how it drives a second. Yeah, I think it might be in some limp mode here. I'm sure I can hear some pressure release in the engine bay. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a turbo boost pipe or something. It performed nicely beforehand. I don't think it's anything too serious, famous last words. Based on how it was driving, it just appeared when I planted my foot down that I could hear a little bit of boost pressure escaping. If it needs a turbo, then we can probably still get out of it alive, but we won't be making big bucks out of it, that's for sure. Now Mark did tell me, actually, to be fair, that he drove it and it seemed okay, but the chap who owned it told him it needed a new boost pipe. So it looks like the guy was straight with him. Now, like I say, Mark test drove it and this didn't happen to him, probably because he didn't do what I just did, which is mash my foot to the floor. So we knew there was a good chance it might need a boost pipe anyway. So looks like that's something we're going to need to get ordered up. I stopped at Moore's to pay the bill for the Nissan Qashqai, which we'll go through in a minute, see what profit we ended up with that, because that was a big bill. I came back to the Freelander, hopped in it, had no engine management code on it, took it out, obviously took it back up here again, gave it the beans, and I had to really try and accelerate hard for it to pop back into limp mode. Driving it normally, no problem at all. I had to mash my foot to the ground, and then as soon as I did that, then I could hear boost whistle from the engine bay again, and it went into the limp mode. But driving it normally, it didn't seem to happen at all. So I'm pretty confident it's a pipe. Maybe we'll pop the bonnet and have a quick look. Well, I can't really tell what I'm looking at. I can tell you for starters, this pipe here doesn't look good. This pipe is slightly off, and it's all frayed at the end. That doesn't look like it's sitting on right at all, but that doesn't, obviously that's not a boost pipe, but it is into the air intake. I don't know if it could cause a pressure issue to the turbo being this early on, because this is pre-metered, isn't it? I'd have thought there's no meters for the air intake until you're over here somewhere, I'd have thought. Yeah, I think I'll leave that one to the professionals to check out. Can't even see the turbo, to be honest. I don't know what I'm looking for. Well, I do know what a turbo looks like, but I can't see a turbo. I'm sure you guys will point me in the right direction, but it definitely seems air intake related to me. So we'll get the boys at Moore to look at it, because it needs an MOT anyway. Coolant's a nice colour, that looks good. Oil. Ugh. Typical diesel colour. Let's take a reading a sec, just wipe it off. Oil looks to be at the correct level. Yeah, or near enough. Typically diesel-y black. I mean, other than that, it drives really nicely. Like I say, if you're not, I have to mash my foot on the accelerator to get it to do that, to go into limp mode. If you just drive it normally, it doesn't go into limp mode, and it drives really nicely, smoothly. Now I do need to pop underneath and have a look at the prop shaft. I'll get a mat out, I think, because the floor's horrible, because I haven't even checked whether it's actually still four-wheel drive or not. Common on these for the prop shaft to be removed because of diff problems. I'm not getting any diff whine on it, so that's either because it's all good or it's because the prop shaft is gone. It looks to me like it's there. Give it a closer look. I think it's there. I think I might have to take a little video and then review it afterwards, because I can't quite see without getting right underneath it, which I don't want to do in this weather. Is that a cover though? I can't really see if that's a cover for the prop shaft. Confirmed at a later date, because it's too horrible to get climbing underneath that right now. And I bought the car now anyway, so it doesn't really make a lot of difference whether it's got a prop shaft there or not, I guess. It's going to have to get done. Because even as a two-wheel drive with the automatic gearbox, there'll still be a market for it, I would have thought. So we'll get it down to Moore's, and I think we'll get them to investigate the turbo problem before we start, well, not the boost issue. I haven't plugged it in to read a code. We should probably do that, shouldn't I? Should we read what the code is? Guess is down below what code we're going to see. My money is on a boost pressure code. So we'll see if I'm starting to learn anything at all or not. Thanks to John and Jill for just popping by. They're on holiday. They popped by to say hi and bought biscuits, which we know is against the rules. We have a no biscuit policy now, don't we, guys? Because it's getting crazy how many biscuits you guys get turned up with. But it is pouring with rain outside. The Freelanders upset me, so I think a brew and a few biscuits is probably in order. So thanks, John and Jill. Nice to see you. Well, unfortunately, for the first time ever, the Top Don doesn't want to communicate with this car. I can manually select it, and it does automatically actually find that it's a Freelander as well. I've tried manually, and it just says it's not communicating, which is a bit of a problem. So I can't get the code read off it, so we'll have to try a different code reader, or get the boys to try a different code reader. So I think that's probably where we are with that now. As said, I'm 99.9% sure it's a boost problem, and hopefully it's just a boost pipe. Right, guys, we've got the bill from the Nissan Qashqai that I sold to the gentleman. I think it was £300 or £400 cheaper than Auto Trader recommended. I put it up at $4,995 because I wanted it to be underneath that magic 5k mark. But if you remember, the decision was I wasn't going to do all the bodywork, so I didn't spend any time on it at all, really. Taking out all the little dents that were down the side on the boot, just cleaned it right up, stitched the seat up a bit, didn't I? So that was a conscious decision to sell it under Auto Trader because I wasn't going to do the work on it. But then it went down for MOT and it needed some stuff for MOT. Now, again, none of it was any problem stuff. It was all just maintenance stuff, really. So we did a service as I do on my cars. Again, that's something I don't necessarily have to offer, but I do. So we did renewed engine oil and oil filter. It needed a CV boot replacing. We did 3 tyres. The near side door, I thought the check strap had gone. In fact, the plate had snapped and they needed to weld that up. The engine undercover was loose. Well, no, that's not really a problem. They needed to get the vehicle for an emissions test. It was borderline on emissions, so they put some cleaner through it and took it for a hot drive, and then it passed emissions okay. They did front brake pads and discs. They did a track rod end, 2 track rod ends, and 4 hours of labour, and then had to obviously do the tracking, having done the track rod ends. So we had oil filter, boot kit, track rod end, brake pad set, tyres, which is a big one, £183 for tyres, valves, balance, disposal, air filter, treatment, brake disc. Now, I'm getting a good rate on those. If you look at those prices, they're pretty good prices for the parts. Moore's looking after me as always. If you had that done yourself, if that was a consumer, the total bill was £707.84. If you're a consumer, that probably would have been nearer £900, I reckon. I do get some VAT back. I get £111 VAT back. But let's have a look at the numbers. Got the car for £2.5 grand. So it was a good buy, and you'd think straight away at £4,995 I've got £2,445 margin. You think, wow, that's a massive margin. If a dealer offered you that for your car and you saw him being sold around 4k, you might think he's taking the Michael. But as you can see straight away, that margin gets eaten away very quickly. £707 for the MOT and repairs. Warranty wise cover £237. Now I could do without that and make the chap come back to me if he has problems, but potentially things that could go wrong with that. That's going to include emissions cover, like the DPF. The DPF on that, I imagine, is in the region of £600-700 alone, plus fitting. So if I do get a problem like that, I'm going to be, yes, I don't want to spend £237 if I don't have to, but if something like that does go wrong, I'm going to be covered for it. And I wanted to do 6 months cover on it because of the mileage as well. Again, 6 months is the standard consumer rights, but consumer rights don't cover as much as warranties do. They don't, the fair wear and tear on 113,000 11-year-old Qashqai, you'd probably get away with a lot, saying lots fair wear and tear. But I don't want to get into this conversation. So 6 months cover, with emissions on top, 237, but I do get some VAT back off that. Then I did advertise on Auto Trader. I'm trying to think if there's going to be about 20 quid's worth of fuel that needs to go on top of that as well. Obviously it needs to contribute to the running of the unit and stuff. So I pay the VAT man £407, because remember, although my margin is £2,445, I'm only actually making £1,200 out of it. They base the VAT on the price that you buy the car at versus what you sell it at, on the gross profit. So I'm paying the VAT on 4,995 minus 2,550. So I'm paying the VAT man £407. Massive, isn't it? So again, people don't factor this in. They just look at the screen of a car and they go, oh, I traded it in 1,500. It's on the forecourt for £3,000. They've made £1,500. They haven't. Straight away, bang, £300 to the VAT man. So if you're £400 to the VAT man, that gives me a net of £1,059.78. But then I do get to add back in the VAT I can claim back. The VAT man's still up, 250 quid odd. So again, people say, oh yeah, but you can claim the VAT back. You never get all of the VAT back, guys, only a proportion of it. So my net profit is £1,216, which you might say is a good profit, which I guess, you know, on an investment, a total investment of £3,500 to get £1,200 back, in terms of investments, is probably one of the best investments you could possibly do. But we do know how easily that could get eaten into very, very quickly. And it all came down to buying at the right price. When you see those We Buy Any Car prices, a lot of time I'm actually bidding less than We Buy Any Car as well. And I'll tell you why, because when you get down We Buy Any Car, they're not going to give you the money they say on their screen straight off the gate. That, you know, straight away that's going to be knocked down. Secondly, they're just putting the car into auction, so they don't plan on doing any prep on that vehicle, so they can actually take way more of a chance than a dealer can buying a car. So people think We Buy Any Car is lowest pricing. Nah. It's actually quite good pricing on We Buy Any Car, because there's no risk to them. They're just going to stick the car straight into auction, and they'll just make a couple hundred quid, and because of the volume they're doing, they'll be all right. A dealer's going to do this. They're going to get the car fully prepped, so they have to be even keener on their pricing. So that's the Qashqai. So we'll see. Again, we don't know and how much of that is going to stay in my pocket until 6 months has been elapsed. In terms of contribution towards the running cost of the business, you could probably easily take a couple hundred quid out of that, so really more like £1,000. So yeah, in 6 months time, that's when we'd know how much we made out of the Qashqai. Now I've also had a call on the Cactus that I've already agreed a deal on, again below Auto Trader, so I expect to get hammering in the comments down below for this. But I already had a call on the Cactus, and it looks like, although there's nothing fundamentally wrong with it, one small little issue that I want to do so it can go out advisory free is going to be very costly. So again, it's not even the fact of whether the Qashqai keeps its money from the sale, and whether I do truly net that after the 6 months. Some of that money may have to go towards contributing towards other deals. So you can't look at it on a single car, you have to look at it on your averages, because that may well go to subsidise something like the Cactus. It could go to subsidising something like the Freelander if I end upside down on that. And of course I'm making other punts. Any minute now we've got Discovery 3 turning up, and we know that could really be costly. So I don't want people out there thinking this is what dealers are making in all their cars. As you've seen on many of my cars, it can often come down into a few £100s. It's just a massive volume game. Uh-oh. The enabler is here. He will bring me anything I send him to buy without any questions. So we've got the Disco 3. What's your experience of discos, Adrian? A big... Oh my word. Look at it, it fills the trailer right up. So, first look, I have bought this completely blind.
What have you done?
What have I done?
Why?
Well, because I wanted to share your hurt. I didn't want you to be the only person.
You've got a lot of hurt to come then.
Oh dear. Right, I think we'll save this for another video. So hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll get into this and find out how bad a shape we're in.